All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Sunday Main Slate Show. Week 9 ahead. Got Hoop with me, and it's the Tam and Ham Show today. Tambo and Hambo. Excited to hop on here with my guy Hamwich as well to break it all down. We'll go game by game as we usually do. We'll go through all the top plays, the ownership, the breakdown, roster construction, process, ways that you can do things just a little bit differently in your GPP lineups today. Make sure to hit that like on the way in. We will bring up our tool, the best in DFS, the Stone, when we get to 400 likes. I saw almost 50 on the way in, so we appreciate that. And then make sure you're subscribed. Only 399 away from 9,000, so we're close to the big giveaway. Ham, it's first time that me and you are on here on a Sunday Main Slate together, I think. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Yeah, ready for this day. Yeah, excited to be here with you and Hoop. Week 9, crazy. Hoop says every week in the cash show, it's like, where has the season gone? We're literally halfway through after today, but I think we got some ways to get different today. And let's take it down.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's what we always say: Sin Day, Win Day, and it's also Hoop a November to remember. It's the first November show, so let's get it done starting today. Got some milli makers out there, some live final opportunities, things like that. What's going on, Hoop? How you doing?
Yeah, very solid slate. I mean, we have, 12 games on DK, I believe, and then 13 on FanDuel as they continue to include the Monday night game, which actually kind of or the Sunday night game, which I kind of like. So there's a lot of games to cover, some high totals, a couple plays that stand out as being pretty popular. But outside of that, I mean, it's a pretty open slate. A couple, I think game stack situations that we can discuss here on the show. But looking forward to diving in. And I think we're going to do a little giveaway here at some point as well to keep the chat engaged. So we'll discuss that here in the opening as well.
Yeah, Hamwich is going to pick a winner today. He said, what's the big giveaway, boys? I said, well, whatever Ham decides. So put him in charge. You are getting called out immediately, though, because obviously members already know what's going on. We'll get to that game later, but
there's reasoning behind it. I know. I mean, last year when I was on Dak, which shocker, I'm on him today. I wore the jersey, but hey, man, he's got to prove something to us before that jersey goes back on. So that's where we're at with Dak, but we'll discuss it when we get there. He's got to prove it. In
the game, I've been waiting for the Detroit Lions Sin hoodie, so that's good. Yeah. Someone said, they said, man, I got my new gear. I'm so excited. But just so you know, my wife is very Catholic. She wasn't a fan of Sin. I said, no, it's an S with a rocket ship and an N. It's SHIPIT Nation, SN, no I. He goes, all right, I'll tell her that. So all good. We're excited to get through to it. A lot of good people here. And then somebody said this too, Ham. I thought this was a big blunder. Why would they got all these overseas games, more than I ever can remember in any season? I think there's a Germany game coming up soon too. Why not have it on the day of the daylight savings time change? Just insane, right?
Yeah. It's wild. I was up early. I was up early in the Discord. I couldn't sleep. Excited about this show. And then the time change obviously messed me up. But why not this week? Why Germany next week?
Yeah, I don't know. Kenny said that's why he bought the black hoodie. He doesn't want the Lions feeling going on over there. So all right, Hoop, let's start this off, man. It's funny. That game is the first.
I'm good with those games. Like, I just wanted to add on to that point. Like, if they want to do the Germany and all that stuff, but it's like, do it on a different day. Like, I don't want it Sunday morning. I want it like Friday night or something like that. Like, Sunday morning is stupid.
We got a Friday night football game coming up. Actually, American Thanksgiving this month. My favorite holiday, as everybody knows, your fellow Canadian that's more American than Canadian when he celebrates the holidays. It is going to be a fun one. We've got the Thursday 3-gamer as usual, but then they're taking over on the Friday night. It's an early afternoon, I guess. I think it's like 3 or 4 Eastern, but it is a Chiefs game. So, all right, Hoop, the first game on the slate is the Cowboys-Falcons, so I'll bring it up. Obviously, got to get to 400 likes to keep this going. But before we get into the first game, maybe just talk about the slate as a whole. A little bit different than last week. Last week, we had 1 million wide receivers at value prices. This week, quite a bit different, but we have one running back for sure that's going to be extremely popular. And then there's some other guys as well that people are popping up with here.
Yeah, I mean the overview is the same thing at quarterback. I mean, I hate to like beat the same drum, but I've been talking about it for years. Like it always gets spread out. Like no quarterbacks are ever super, especially on a 12-game slate. We have a 12-game slate, so you don't ever have to get off a quarterback, especially today that you like because of ownership. It's all getting spread out. No one at the position's getting anything close to substantial ownership. So that's one thing. We have a couple values, not couple values. We have Chase Brown going to be very popular with Moss out, and then Alvin Kamara is also going to be very popular in that good matchup against the Panthers. Couple wide receivers that are underpriced. One of them's in this first game that we're going to talk about, Drake London. But outside of that, it's a pretty wide open slate. We have a tight end that's going to get a lot of ownership, but in Gesicki, outside of that, pretty spread out. This is what happens with the 12-game slate. There's so many options. We have some bigger totals, like this first game, Cowboys-Falcons is sitting at 52. We have, the Bills projected to score 28. We have a 48 total in Seattle. The Lions sitting at 48. There's a lot of appealing games. So ownership's going to get spread out outside of like a few spots.
Yeah, Ham, do you have an overview on your side, like anything you're seeing different? I know you're our FanDuel guy as well. Maybe you can talk a little about that, because obviously the mini indie game over there is quite enticing this week with Hawkinson coming back with no restrictions, they say, at a super cheap price tag. Pittman is priced, I think, lower than Downs. Maybe he should be, I don't know, but with Flacco starting. So any just overview on this slate, and then anything you want to add for FanDuel?
Let's start with FanDuel. I mean, on FanDuel, you have a bunch of plays. Aaron Jones is going to be super popular. Justin Jefferson is gonna bring down Chase and Lamb's ownership. Hawkinson's in a great spot. Pittman is way too underpriced. So I think that game over on FanDuel will bring down some of the higher price guys, or some of the higher owned guys that you're going to see on DK. And Hoop really hit it. Kamara's going to be chalk. Gesicki. I mean, all those guys are going to be super popular. In my opinion, there is great pivots off everybody, including Chase Brown. So looking forward to breaking it all down. I think this first game that we're going to talk about, Cowboys-Falcons, it's going to be an exciting game. I know Hoop really likes it. I really like it as well. So looking forward to just breaking it all down.
Yeah, I was just trying to see one more thing real quick here. But Hoop, did you have a thought on the giveaway? We can talk about that quick if you got something that we can do for the chat and get them set up for the giveaway here, and then we'll hop into this first game.
How about we'll do a little game because Ham's filling in for our guy Title. Title is out, and Title keeps everything close to the vest. Like he doesn't talk much personal life, which is totally fine. But let's do a giveaway based on where Title is this morning. Why has Title left us this morning? All right,
that's a good one.
So the best response to that will get the free month, and maybe we'll do two. Maybe we'll do a free month and like $100 ticket or something if there's two good ones. There got to be two good ones though, in order for the $100 ticket to kick in.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I got to bring this up. So you guys do that. Give us your thoughts. Where Title's at, the best answer will win. Ham will pick it out later. But this is just if it happens, it happens. This guy has like 60 carries his whole career. He's not coming in today to drop 15, 20 touches on us. People want chalk to fail so bad. It's hilarious. And we'll get to it when we get to that game with Brown. But everyone was interested in Brown before Zach Moss was ruled out. And now Zach Moss is ruled out. It's at home versus the Raiders. It's a guy that you can play in a million different ways on this slate. And Hoop, I think you brought it up earlier, like Gesicki's popular, but how many people are playing Burrow with Brown and Gesicki and no Chase, for example, or Brown with the Bengals D where you got to pay up and everybody's paying down? Like you can literally use this guy in 100 ways, but everybody wants it to fail just so bad. Pretty comical. So we'll get there when we do. Let's start off. Let's go to this Cowboys-Falcons game. And, you said you had reasons for not rocking this Dak jersey. So let me know what those are, because Dak is up here, big boy total in Atlanta. Great spot. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. So, a lot of times when I'm on Dak, I've worn the jersey, but we're week 9 of the NFL season. He hasn't shown us shit yet. He's got to earn his way onto my back, and it hasn't happened yet at this point. Giving him the opportunity today, though. He is going to have the opportunity to earn the jersey back at some point, but he's got to do something first. And yes, I am in on him today, mostly because of the price tag, mostly because of the matchup. And honestly, I think the main reason I'm in on Dak is because the run backs on the other side. Like there's so many different things you can do if you play Dak. Now, Dak to CD is going to be the popular way to go. I'm good with that. Like they know at this point they have to feed CeeDee Lamb. I mean, it's 14 and 17 targets, I believe, in the last 2 games. Like he is the only way this offense is successful. I think we continue to see those big numbers. Yeah, it was 14, 9, 7 prior to that, 9, 8. Like seems like a lock to get like 10 to 12 targets with the potential for way more. And it's not like he's going to be like 40% owned or anything. We have him at 11. I think it's probably higher than that, but still not a big number, maybe into the mid-teens. So I love Lamb. The other pieces that go along with Dak, Tolbert, low ownership and relatively cheap. Turpin, very cheap at 3,700, low ownership. And then Ferguson, because we have these other tight end plays, his ownership is in check as well. So Dak to all those guys, good. I'm not playing the running game whatsoever. Like Zeke is out and they elevated Dalvin Cook. That really doesn't do anything. But like I said, the reason I like the Dak stuff so much is the run backs on the other side. And you have, in my eyes, 5 very solid run back options. Bijan Robinson, ownership should be held in check because of the Chase Brown and the Alvin Kamara situation where they're going to get a lot of ownership. Drake London's underpriced. Yes, he's going to be owned. But again, like should get spread out a little bit. The price is just too cheap on Drake London at 67. And I'd argue even the 79 on FanDuel. Mooney should be low owned here, 6K. He's been great. And we talked about it, I believe, on the Cash Game show. He just gets open. Like when he gets passes from Cousins, it seems like the dude's just wide open. And then you get a cheap guy in Ray McLeod. So if you are spending and going like Dak to CD, like Ray McLeod, I think is a perfect run back at 3,800. He's always on the field. And then probably my favorite is Kyle Pitts. I mean, starting to do something. I mean, it's been a slow start to his career, but the last couple weeks, it's looked good. And like Kirk Cousins is hitting these guys and they're like wide open in these games. So this has the potential for some big back and forth. You look at the yardage for Pitts in the last 4 games, 88, 70, 65, 91. Obviously found the end zone twice last week. Really like him at the tight end position. A lot of people probably going cheap with guys like Gesicki. You go, a tier above and you get Kyle Pitts, single digit ownership. And then obviously if I'm playing all these Falcon guys, I'm in on this game. I'm clearly going to be in on Kirk Cousins as well. Cowboys defense sucks. I think he's a really good play. So 2 quarterbacks I love. All the pass catchers in this game I love, and then Bijan Robinson I think is a really good play as well, where we're showing 16%. I think that's probably legit. I'll probably be in like the 25 to 30% range. It's a guy I want to be overweight on, and clearly a game in a dome that can have that back and forth. So overstacks and everything in play here.
Yeah, a little breakfast hamwich this morning. Wake up with our boy Ham. Ham, this is an interesting spot. And while we got the stone up, before it goes away, obviously, if you guys can get us to the 400 likes, I'll do a quick check on that right now, but it's easy. The heart button is not the like. We're almost at 200, so we'll get it back soon, I'm sure. But do us that favor. We label the games, and I know this one has a chalky game label, but what's funny is like it's Bijan maybe, and it's definitely Drake London. People like Drake London, I get it. But if you're stacking Cousins, Mooney, Pitts, and running it back with Lamb or something, I mean, you're not really getting to any of that. If you're putting in, Dak, Lamb, Ferguson, or overstacking and adding a Turpin and then running it back with one chalk piece, I don't have any problem with that. If you're playing Bijan with Jake Ferguson in a secondary stack, I don't have any problem with that. I mean, this to me is much more of a target game. So disagree with it a little, but that's, that's the difference. But I just think that's what's funny about this without going into the whole thing again. Both teams pass a lot. Right? There's good stack rankings for them, solid report card stuff, good matchups, high upside. This is definitely a game, and I think others will be interested, but that was kind of my point. Even though others are interested, it feels like they just want a couple of pieces. What's your thoughts on this game for yourself?
Yeah, I love this game. I mean, Hoop said a lot, but I think Dak's in a great spot. I mean, they have no run game, right? Zeke doesn't show up to meetings. His ass is sitting on the bench. Cook is dust. They have to throw it to CeeDee Lamb, right? We saw, 17 targets last week. And that's going to be the trend for them moving forward. I mean, CeeDee, top 3 receiver in the NFL. Dak has to throw it to him. We're in a dome. And they have really no other options. I mean, the only other option I would like would be Jake Ferguson. I like what Hoop said about that. I love the double there because Dak doesn't run anymore. I love the Dak, CD, Jake Ferguson double. And then on the bring back side, I don't think Bijan's going to be 15% owned. I mean, And I think he's in a great spot too. No Micah Parsons, no DeMarcus Lawrence. If Eric Kendricks, the middle linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, who's questionable, if he sits, I mean, it's going to be Robinson all day. And then Drake London, way too cheap on DK, way too cheap on FanDuel as well. He's in a great spot. The only place I would disagree, I don't have any interest in Kyle Pitts. I know he had 2 touchdowns last week. He was in my core over there. He played less than 50% of the snaps. Charlie Warner played more than Pitts did last week. After that, what should have been fumble. Sorry, go ahead. You can talk about this real quick, Tambo.
No, go ahead. I was just bringing it up for after. You can finish out.
Yeah, no, I was done with that, but I'm with Hoop. I love overstacking this game. It's Dak, CD, Ferguson doubles for me, and then bringing it back with Robinson and/or London. I think this game shoots out. It's in a dome. It should be a shootout.
Yeah, one thing I'll say too, just to add in with this before I go to the contest, there's over 210 spots of rake-free entries available still. But just to note, I was less high, and I'll kick it back to you on this, Hoop, and then we'll go to the next game. But just the 2 tight ends this week. I know we got running backs that are great and all this stuff, but Gesicki, the more I got to him at 3,100 and just with the Higgins out, all this other stuff, like I'm okay with like a Gesicki, Jake Ferguson, for example, if I'm on a Dak stack and I still need another cheap guy, because that may get me off of some of these, cheaper wide receivers that others are going forced to sort of, there's not 15 cheap wide receivers this week that you can feel good about. I'd rather go to a cheap tight end and a guy like that spot where you might get 7 or 8 targets and rack them up that way. So I will just note, especially with this game, this is one of the spots where I would consider 2 tight ends. If it gets me Dak, Lamb, Ferguson, London, then I land on Gesicki, I'm fine with that. So I think that's interesting as well. Any further thoughts on that, Hoop, before we go to this next game?
No, I mean, just a ton of different ways to go. Like, yes, some of the pieces are going to get some ownership, but man, like I talked about, the overstack is in play here. Pivots, like for sure, like the Pitts play definitely stands out to me. Like we know what people are doing at tight end. Ray McLeod, cheap option. The other pass catchers outside of CD Lamb on the Dallas side are unowned. So just so many different ways, and that makes it very appealing for DFS purposes.
All right, we're going to go to the Broncos-Ravens in just a second, but this was the reminder. So you just go here at ToeTagginTambo, click the link. There's just over 200 spots left. It is a $5 5 max, completely rake-free, $12.50 for first, $150th for 10th, $150 for 10th, and then it's a $10 min cash. So just a ton of different ways that you can go. If you want to get in on all the tools over at SHIPIT Nation, we did leave this price tag up. We've talked about it plenty, so no need to harp on it, but a lot of sites charging $79, $89 just for NBA only. We've got NBA, including Showdown, NHL, MMA, PGA still going on. There's 3 weeks left of that coming up. College football in full swing. And then, of course, NFL and Showdown, just a ton there. Join the nation. Click this link. Get in for $85. Hoop, I'll kick it back to you. Let's talk about this next one. It is the Broncos at the Ravens. And Bo Nix has been everybody's favorite. This is another... The F still exists for the Ravens, but are we done with this guy or what's going on here?
Yeah, I think this is a reality check spot for the Broncos. Like, yes, they're overachieving this year, I'd say, and they've been definitely better than I thought. And at home against weak teams, like I think they can still succeed. But last 3, Raiders, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Saints, and they beat the Panthers. Probably 3 of the worst teams in the NFL. Saints aren't terrible, but that was without Derek Carr. Got to beat the bad teams. Like, there's no doubt about it. But, man, traveling to Baltimore, I think they get their ass kicked. I'll be fading the Broncos side. Moderate interest, like Derrick Henry at low ownership. Like, I always want to be there. I mean, they're, 9.5, 10-point favorites at home. Like, this screams like a Derrick Henry spot where a lot of people aren't looking to pay up at quarterback. Lamar Jackson, like Zay Flowers, unowned. Mark Andrews, unowned. They're projected to score 28 points here, like 4 touchdowns. Like I want pieces of this offense, and you don't have to allocate a ton of resources to get way over the field. Like Zay Flowers, like I said, unowned. Bateman's had some big plays. It just came out. Deontay Johnson's only going to play like a few snaps here today, so really don't have to worry about anything there. But Andrews, Deontay Johnson, Bateman with Lamar, I think is fine, and then Derrick Henry. But I'll be off the Broncos, and I will force in some Baltimore defense. I think this could be a thorough ass kicking, in favor of the Ravens today.
Yeah, no homer here, but I will say the interesting thing. First off, I don't know if we can just write off Deontay Johnson this Sunday, because every time someone says they're just going to get 10 to 15 snaps, they get all the catches. They get 10 catches, 2 touchdowns. What did Puka do? We've had Hawkinson, all those guys come back, but I kind of agree on that one. But one thing I want to add on, and I'll kick it to you, Ham, I guess the only thing I really like on the Broncos side would be like a one-off of Sutton or Troy Franklin. And again, don't think you necessarily need to go there, but just to note it. But if you think what Hoop thinks and what I think is the Ravens play down to their competition last week, and then they're not going to do it 2 weeks in a row, they just smashed this Broncos team who's had great matchups, they're back at home, all of that, well, then we got to think a little bit about Derrick Henry, because no one's playing Henry this week. He had one bad week last week. Maybe that gets, and they lost. So maybe they go back to him here, and you can pair him up with the Ravens D. You can play him by himself. But to me, this is just a spot they might just hammer him a bunch, right?
Like I just want to address this really quick. Like I get what the numbers show you, but again, in terms of the teams they've just recently played, the Panthers, worst team in the NFL. Saints without Derek Carr, probably worst team in the NFL. They lost to the Chargers. The Chargers don't pass the ball at all. They want to run it. And then the Raiders, and then the Jets prior to that. They've had the nut matchup for, like, if you're like a good pass defense. Like, I'm sorry, like I don't care. Like, I don't care what the numbers say. Like, they've had the best possible run out the last 5 weeks matchup.
And this is also too, none against Aaron. He's a great dude, always helping, supporting here and post comments. But it's hanging out at almost 10 points. That's why. Go get it. The money's there. Yeah. I had this whole conversation with Mayo on Friday. Like, go ahead. It's at 10, 9.5, 9, whatever number you want. It's free money is what people are telling me. Go get it. But I would be on the other side. I think for sure the Ravens come out and just smash here. So we've seen it plenty of times in the past. Ham, something you want to add with this one? I'm just curious if you got anything else you want to add.
Yeah, nothing really to add. The only thing I would add is, Baltimore's pass defense is bad, but last week, Jameis and Bo Nix are not the same. I mean, Bo Nix had like 10 passing yards against the Jets or something crazy. They don't. I know your boys with Lucas Kroll, but they don't have a David Njoku. So this passing attack for the Broncos is putrid. The Ravens are going to roll their ass. Derrick Henry is going to go for about $150 and 2. And it's going to be a bloodbath. And the Ravens defense is going to smash to get both corners back today that they didn't have last week. And like who said, it's easy to look good against the Panthers, the Saints, and the Raiders and all these crappy teams. But now reality is going to set in. They're going to play at 1:00 Eastern. It's going to get ugly quick in Baltimore. Derrick Henry, the Ravens D, the only two I have. I saw you posted about Deontay's go smash the over on his props. I won't be getting there, but it's Ravens and D-Hen for me.
It's a running joke now, though, right? We've seen that plenty of times, but I don't need to keep going on it. I went from more sort of whatever, like anything can happen. It's football. We know that. I'm just saying I think that's an interesting spot. And if you do feel like the Ravens are going to win, we've already had the stats over his entire career. He scores like 5 more fantasy points in their wins. And then on top of it, you look at the November stuff, he gets that extra boost. He goes up by month over his whole career as well. So he's getting a little bit more action in November here, making it a November to remember. So we can move on. Let's go to the Dolphins Bills division game hoop. We got, everybody wanted Miami last week. Nobody wants them this week. Maybe Achane a little bit after what he did last week. But I would say that kind of, is where that side lies, not as much on the Tyreek and all that is what we thought. And then the Bills side, it's, some people are talking about Josh Allen, but not many. And then, they don't know how to stack him because all these options that he has. So what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, on the Miami side, I mean, they've always played like shit in Buffalo. I don't think it's supposed to be like terrible weather or anything today, but they've just always struggled here. The only projected score, 21. The one thing that definitely stands out, though, is the price tags are still too cheap on these Miami guys. They haven't fully adjusted them. And a guy like Achane, like you talked about, 6,700 is too cheap. We saw last week, like he can get there in any sort of game script. And I believe it was like 8 targets in that game. And he was like basically option number 2. It seemed like in this passing offense, it was like Tyreek 1 and then Achane 2. And, even if they are losing in this game, which the line kind of says, I mean, they're like 6.5-point underdogs. Achane can get there any sort of way. Tyreek's too cheap at 7,300 still. And then another like cheap tight end, if you want to throw into the mix, would be Jonnu Smith at like 3,500. But Tyreek and Achane just a little bit too cheap, so I'll be in on them. And then the Bill side, it's kind of the only situation where we're waiting on news with Amari Cooper and Curtis Samuel. I don't think it's like slate changing news, but if they were both to miss, like definitely a boost for Shakir, Coleman, and Kincaid. I mean, this passing offense coming in at pretty low ownership. Josh Allen projected to score 28. I mean, it's a pretty similar situation to Baltimore. They're projected to score 4 touchdowns. So I do want to be in on some of the Josh Allen stuff. And then James Cook as well. I mean, he had I believe it was last week, he had the big game. Like anytime they're favored, like they'll feed him, and he should get pretty low ownership. So everything's coming in low owned for an offense that's projected to score 28. I'll just naturally be in on that in my in my 150.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like the Detroit spot last week, where everybody knew they had the big total. Everybody knew there was a possibility to just run these points up early. And it actually feels like it could play out that way too, where it's like you just need James Cook or something. Like you just need one guy and the rest gets too spread out and the prices are too high and there's too much of a, mix and match there from all their guys, depending on how these injuries shake out. Assume good, but we'll have to wait and see. But certainly feels like we could see that again here. What's your thoughts on the Bills and then anything on the Dolphins side?
Yeah, I love Josh Allen today, especially on FanDuel, $9,000, $100 higher than Lamar. I think he outperforms Lamar today, and I think it's fine going naked, Josh Allen, right? I mean, he's got so many options. Plus, the dude can just, run it 25 yards in. So I love Josh Allen today. Love Josh Allen nakeds today. And then Chain. I mean, I heard the stat last week that you said went 2 plays, and his targets, like if he gets 8 targets, it's not like 8 targets to Tyreek. I mean, these are high efficient. He's going to catch a lot of them because they're so close to the line. He can take it 70. I think it was a couple years ago. He had 3 touchdowns, 300 yards total offense against Buffalo. Not that means anything in this game, but my point is Achane's a great play. Hoop said it. He's underpriced. Give me some Allen. Give me some Achane. That's a bring back. And I don't hate Waddle either. He's 5,500 on DK. I mean, that's a great price for a guy that can rack up high efficiency targets as well. I think this game, not to give too much away on the stone, but I really like this game, and we do too over here at the Nation. So I think you're going to want to get some pieces of this game, as Hoop said.
Yeah, 818 watching, 820 now, only 280 likes. So we can definitely get there. It just takes 2 seconds. Hit the thumbs up. If it doesn't say subscribed and it just says subscribe, make sure you hit that button as well. We're almost to 9,000 for the next big giveaway, but appreciate you guys that do hit it. And guys and girls, shout out to our girl Stephanie out there. Good luck today, everyone. So appreciate you. Let's go to the Saints-Panthers, Hoop. And this one, funny enough, this is the designation I'd be looking for, the chalky stuff, because it's like Kamara or Olave, probably, one of them on many teams. And then even on the other side, Coker getting sniffed up a little bit there. His ownership popping up. So what's your thoughts on this one?
That's one of your better ones. I mean, I've been improving my game with that stuff, and you've been on this shit forever. I like that one, getting sniffed.
I've not personally been on shit forever. I'm talking about Coker getting sniffed up, not me. But
no. You've been on the wordplay. You've been on the wordplay forever.
Right? Yeah, they don't stop. That's for sure.
Yes. Not the Coker portion. Yeah, I mean, you know what you're getting in this one. Olave is way too cheap with Derek Carr coming back at 6,100. Kamara, it's a really good matchup, obviously, here against the Panthers, 7,800. Those two are going to definitely get ownership. Taysom, I am never on Taysom, but I will be on Taysom today. First day back for Carr. No Shaheed. Shaheed, I mean, was a big part of this offense. When Derek Carr was rolling early on in the season, Shaheed was a huge part of it, probably a bigger part than Olave was. I just feel like there's a gap in offensive production, and they're going to probably try to fill it with Taysom. So in on Taysom. Juwan Johnson, I don't mind as well, a big red zone target. And Derek Carr, I don't hate it. I don't know how much I'll get to Derek Carr, but I don't hate it today as another cheap quarterback. On the Panthers side, it's probably just going to be the sniffing it up with Coker or DJ Moore at $3K flat. I mean, little bit of it.
Yeah, come on now. DJ's in Arizona.
DJ Moore, sorry. Yeah, with David. See, I get that when I try to do the Tambo jokes, it throws me off a little bit. So David Moore, I'm fine with it at 3K as well, but that'll be it on the Panthers side.
The problem with both these guys, I'm going to post it in the chat, but is this can happen, right? But I do think it is interesting. I hate guys that you can put the zeros in their name, and that's the post that you see on X and all that when everyone plays them and they have a horrible game. But I will say the secondary stack looks more and more popular, where people are going to play like a Kamara Coker. It's just a way to cut down on the price point right away. I actually I always like cheaper secondary stacks if I can find them. And the one I like is Taysom Hill with Coker, or I like flipping it and going something like Olave with David Moore. And then you don't have Kamara, you don't have Coker. You're in the exact same spot, but you just changed the build up a little bit and opened up different spots within your lineup. More Coker. Yeah, you can get Bryce Young in there too. That's another thing. I did add him to the slate plan this morning, add him only because he's 4,400. And when I looked at it, you could play like Bryce Young, Kamara, and Coker for almost nothing. And you would just have to fill out the rest of your lineup with whatever you want. So it's ugly, but here's one against those Broncos earlier, by the way, too. Bryce Young dropped like 16 fantasy points and 2 touchdowns on your Broncos, and now they get Lamar Jackson today. So let's keep that one rolling if we're going to run with that bit. But I will say, looks like a spot to go to here, Ham. How are you handling this one? The Derek Carr stuff is also interesting because Kamara and Olave getting ownership, but Derek Carr and Taysom Hill not really getting any.
Yeah, I mean, this game is interesting. I mean, let's talk about it from a couple aspects. I mean, Carolina could make any quarterback look good, right? Made Bo Nix scored 29 points when through the air, not really through his legs last week. They're giving up, I think it's like 34, 33 points per game. So Olave is going to be super popular on both sides. Kamara is going to be super popular. I think to get different, you go a little Taysom and you go a little Derek Carr. Don't hate that. The Saints have 0 running backs outside of Kamara. Miller's out. Williams is out. So Taysom's going to get, I think, at minimum 8 carries. And a lot of those could be goal line carries. I think the Saints are in a great spot. I like Hill. I just like Hill, right? I mean, I think he's going to vulture a couple TDs. Then on the other side, interesting, neither one of you mentioned Bryce Young. He's $4,400. Saints are missing their top 3. Is he 44? You looked at me funny. I think he's $4,400.
You said neither one of us mentioned him. I literally dropped a nugget on him and even used him as proof to why Lamar can bust up the Broncos. We got to give Ham the hammer and wake his ass up over there, man.
Yeah, I'll promise you one thing. My ass definitely did not mention Bryce Young. So that part, half of the statement was correct. That's for sure.
All right. Well, so the Saints are missing their top 3 corners. I mean, Tambo always talks about you can literally get the entire the Panthers offense for like under $12K for the passing. I don't hate that. You got more Coker and Young. I mean, plus Bryce Young. I mean, that's $11K. And then hey Tambo, it's your boy. It's a $100K season with Chuba Hubbard. I love Hubbard. This Saints defense horrendous.
Ham loves the Coke. Ham is in on it. So also the first one, it's our boy Nick Cat, always supporting and appreciate it. But this one got me laughing a little bit. Said title got offered. Contest is still going. Keep it rolling. But the title got offered $25,000 to do a better statue for Wade. So he's got sculpturing class.
This is turning into the wheelchair joke. Bringing this shit up every week now.
We had a wheelchair comment earlier. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to offend Tambo.
The Wade one should live on. That is literally the worst statue of all time.
Did he really go visit it like before and saw it before? I saw a picture of him next to the initial headshot of the sculpture, and so I saw that. I don't know if it's true or not, but online they're like, "How do you not shut this shit down at that point? Like, how do you look at that?"
He saw it without the head, and they were like, "We just got to add the face," and he was like, "Damn, that looks amazing." And then he came back for the reveal, and the face was out of this world, off the planet, and he probably was pissed off, and that's like, who is this guy? But I think Chuba Hubbard was another thing I was going to bring up, so I'm glad you mentioned that. At running back, he's sort of a good flip the build play, right? Like however you're doing your stacks and stuff, he's on the opposite side of Kamara where everybody's hopping on. You could definitely do that and just flip it completely. So I think that's another interesting way to go. Someone mentioned Xavier Legette. He was, I guess, a little bit injured coming into this, a toe or something, or something with his foot, but it sounds like he's going to be good to go. Another good option there in the middle, but I like the Carr side more. I think this game is a little bit interesting back and forth. It's almost 20 points for the Panthers, and everybody that just said how good the Denver D is, that was my point on Bryce Young. He dropped like 240 and 2 touchdowns on him just last week. And now you're talking about a Saints team missing everyone, to your point there. So I think it's definitely a possibility we could see some back and forth in this one. And it's a great matchup for both sides just to round it out. So, Ham, I'll stick with you. Let's go to this next one. Raiders at the Bengals. We are at 365 likes. So 35 likes to go, and then we'll bring the stone back up maybe after this game. Go ahead.
Yeah, you nailed it with Chase Brown. I mean, I was chomping at the bit to play this guy this week on both sites, 6,300 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK. Then we get the news that there's no Zach Moss. I'm with you. When you talk about, good chalk, bad chalk, I think this is great chalk. This Raiders team, pretty bad. I think it's going to be Chase Brown. We've seen this offense, in my opinion, obviously doesn't click the same way when there's no T. Higgins, who's obviously missing another one. It's Chase Brown for me in this game. It's Bengals defense for me. I mean, I guess I get it at 3,100 with Gesicki, but I think that's bad chalk. Interested to hear your takes on that. I understand he's dirt cheap, but it's going to be Chase Brown for me in this one. And then on the other side, the only one I would play too would be Brock Bowers. Bengals do have trouble guarding the tight end. Obviously, Brock Bowers had a great rookie season. He's going to break the record. Brock Bowers only for me. No Jacoby Myers. I think that's a bad play as well, but that's it for me on this one.
Okay. Go ahead. Take your Big Driggs is coming for you. Now you're muted. You can't hit him up with the goods.
But I did. Yeah, that's a good point. It's tough when you're muted, but I'm not okay with little Jordan Humphrey today. We have reverse course on that a little bit, so not okay with either. Yeah, I really like this game, the Raiders and Bengals from a couple. I thought with T. Higgins getting ruled out that Jamar Chase would immediately get like big time ownership, and just not necessarily the case. I mean, probably hovering around maybe 8, 9, 10, just because 8,600 is one of the higher price tags on the slate. In on him, obviously in on the Brown stuff, in on Burrow. Gesicki, I think is a fine option. But the reason I kind of like this a lot is because I think Minshew can do enough to push the pace and keep this as a competitive back and forth game. It is tough though after like Myers and Bowers. I don't have a ton of interest, but Madison maybe a little bit. I am in on the Minshew stuff. Like if I'm playing Minshew, I want Minshew over Bryce Young for sure. At similar price points, 4,500 for Minshew. I'm definitely interested. You immediately can get different builds by playing like a super cheap quarterback. Again, for me, it's definitely Minshew over Bryce Young. But I like all the pieces in this game. Yes, Chase Brown going to be popular, like Cam said, but I'm fine with that. Like this is a really good spot for him. He's looked really good. I mean, he's looked really, really good, much better than Moss. So could get featured here. So a game that I'm very interested in, and kind of surprised this total isn't a little higher. Like I could definitely see this as more of like a 50 total, and it could easily get there. It's just going to take the Raiders being competent offensively, and I think they can do that today.
Yeah, there's a bunch to talk about here with this game. I think it's super interesting, especially for large fields and overstacking, because I think people are just going to have Brown and Myers as a secondary stack. Or if they go to Burrow, it's like Burrow, Chase, Gesicki, Myers, nobody else. So if a fifth or sixth man get there, I think the overstack from both sides, you could do it with Minshew. The one thing when we did the first look this week, shout out to our guy Degenerate75, he made a great strategy point. You guys know I love talking process, strategy, all that stuff. And he said that's the thing. You could see if the Raiders don't show up, this is obvious, but I don't think it gets talked about enough. And if we were on the stone, you would see why we're talking about this stuff. But I will say this, is if the Raiders don't keep up at all, then you can see a game where it's like Burrow to Chase. Chase gets you 20 and it doesn't do anything for you at 8,600 because they just shut it down in the second half. They don't need to keep pressing it, pushing it with them. You do want the Raiders to push. So with that said, if you already know that, that's where some of the interesting stuff comes in with Minshew. That's where the Trey Tuckers come in. That's where was our guy Tweezy at right here? Madison. Madison has a great matchup on the opposite side of Chase Brown. What if you play Burrow, Chase, Gesicki like everybody else, but you use Madison instead of Myers, or you use Madison and Myers? And that's kind of the point here. You can just overstack it and get away with it because, well, Gesicki is going to be popular. He's popular for good reason. He's $3,100. Our guy Billy had it earlier. He digs into all kinds of things throughout the week in the content game himself. And he said, look at the targets. When Higgins is out, it's Gesicki. that eats. You can see a guy like him get 7 or 8 targets, and you also can see a guy like him at a 1Z position on a $3,100 price tag score 10 and that crushes for you. You don't, everyone like thinks you equates ownership on Gesicki to he better have 20 points. That's not exactly how it works. There's no other cheap value on this slate, or very little, I should say, that comes anywhere near what he rates out as based on his position and spot and everything that goes with it in price. So when you want to cut into, even if Chase does get late steam, Burrow's not getting late steam, Brown is not moonwalking back, Brown is going to get a ton of ownership, and Gesicki, even if he gets late steam, you're cutting into some of that by going that way, and there's Raiders on the other side that you can use to be all over this game and still be different. So Ham, I'll kick it to you. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, first off, Mike Gesicki is awful, and he doesn't eat. He had 5 points in the first game of the season. He's had like maybe 2 good games, decent games. I get it. He's $3,100. Gesicki's awful. And if anyone plays the I'm just telling you right now, playing Gardner Minshew, playing Jacoby Myers, worst plays of the slate. Madison's the worst play of the slate. I mean, my mind is just completely blown. If you're going to play a Raider, make it Brock Bowers and then move on. I mean, sorry. I mean, that's
bring
just
Title back. Where's Title? Let's see if Title can tune in here for a few.
It's the Raiders we're talking about. They're awful. I mean, Gardner Minshew. I mean, I just don't get it.
Minshew magic, man.
Yeah.
People are going to play him.
They're going to be donating. They're going to be donating. If they're playing Gardner Minshew, they're not going to win the tournament. I can promise you that.
What if they're playing Gardner Minshew, Myers, Bowers, Chase Brown, and Jamar Chase?
You're going to lose even more money.
I think
I for one like this. I mean, yeah, that's the beauty of this. You know, you have different opinions, but I'm definitely in on this one in a big way.
I'm in on the Bengals defense.
Zim, this is like 101. We don't talk about cores in the free show chat. My goodness. I mean, but just of note, that is not my core. I'm not on the Minshew side of the core. So just to note that, keep that clean. I know a lot of sharper people that are on that side that like it just as a way to get different in this game. It does let you get a completely different build when you go down to a $4,500 quarterback. Even if there is some people playing them, it's whatever. Tons of ways to get different within this game. And I think that's the whole point. My original breakdown of it was you can go away from Chase Brown, like right out of the gates, just a standard one that I would consider standard. Not everybody looks at it this way, but just Burrow, Chase, Gesicki, some chalk, some not, and then you play Madison. You are not playing Chase Brown, so you're leveraging Chase Brown by going with the passing stack on the Bengals instead, and you're playing Madison for $200 less in the exact same thing, and they're going to need to do something in order to make that Bengals stack work. So it's just, that's the whole point of like that 4-man stack there. And if you wanted to add Myers, that should pick up the pace even more, or Trey Tucker, or whatever you want to do. So that's how I look at it. I think that's the best way sort of to consider these things when you're building them out. But
one more thing.
Go ahead.
So we have Minshew and Young basically the same price. Young is in a much better matchup with pieces that we know. Why aren't we playing the Panthers over the Raiders? They have a higher implied team total, I believe. The Saints are literally missing their top 3 corners, and their defense is going to give up 30 points. They're going to be having to pass. I think it's pretty easy to play the Panthers over the Raiders. That's just my opinion. Both teams suck. I get it.
I think people think like our guy Kyle here, Go Collect. He says this is the thing. He's actually going to chuck it. He's actually going to try. He can get destroyed if it doesn't work. That's for sure. We've seen that happen, but that's kind of the whole point, right? You want to see if this game gets pushed, that's how you would see it happen. He needs to do something, and Hoop said it off the top. He thinks Minshew can do enough to keep this game going back and forth. Billy got you too. Bryce Young, 2 career games.
Okay, what does that have to do with today? It just doesn't make any sense. Like,
the best is I'm going to move us to the next game, but I'm loving Ham. Ham drops the hammer. We got to get a segment of that, the Ham Hammer. But this guy came on.
Hammer time with Ham.
Going back just for 2 seconds, I forgot to hit on this, and we're almost at 400 likes. So maybe during this little rant, you guys can hit us up, and we'll get the stone back up for the Chargers Browns. But Ham just nonchalantly threw in there. I don't know if everybody else heard it. You know, Taysom Hill's getting at least 8 carries today. If Taysom Hill is getting 8 carries today at $3,800, he's going to smash, because it's going to be goal line stuff. It's going to be just wild play calling and stuff like that. I mean, at $3,800, that makes me love him even more. And I'm never a Taysom guy. That's just a great spot right now. So yeah, Ham is making some serious takes. The old sledgehammer. Shout out to Marquee Music. Oh, you guys are trying to hit at the same time as me. It was so good. That's why. All right.
I got my guy Landon here. Landon knows what's up. Hoops boy Landon. Carolina's going to crush today. Yeah, there we go, Landon. Let him know. Let him know. Yeah. Landon. Hot takes.
Oh, man. Ham finally dropping some strong calls. Shout out to Billy. He's all on your case now, too. He's got you covered, man. So I guess, we'll keep it rolling from there. But I don't think, no, man, Tambo and Hambo, we're boys, man. We're chatting all the time. It's my guy. I'm actually going to go see him in December down in Nashville. So, we're going to be exchanging Christmas cards, and we might exchange a few drinks as well and have a couple there down in Nashville. But let's keep it moving. Let's go to Raiders, Bengals. I know that the people are going to come through. Hoop, I'm going to go to you. What's that?
We just went Raiders, Bengals.
Chargers, Browns. I said it right earlier and then got it wrong here. Go ahead.
Who you going to? Me or
me to go? Yeah, I'll go. The Chargers are obviously a very difficult team for fantasy purposes. They want to run the ball as much as possible. Dobbins, I think, in play here. Vlad, what did I call McConkey last week? McConkey the donkey, and he fucking just pounded me right in the face immediately. 2 touchdowns, 100 yards.
Those touchdowns too. He mossed people
just owned your boy.
So he swung the donkey right in your face on that one.
He swung the donkey right on my fucking forehead, and it hurt. It was painful in the pocketbook.
He did,
but I'm going to play some this week just so it doesn't happen back-to-back weeks. Disley, solid connection with Herbert. I know Hurst back for sure. I think he is, right? So Hurst is back, but it seems like Disley's kind of earned that spot, and he's looked pretty solid. So I don't mind playing him as a pivot off of Gesicki. And then the Brown stuff with Jameis, I mean, you know what you get. It's great for fantasy with both sides. He's going to sling the ball. He's going to take the chances. Tillman and Njoku are my favorites. I like Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore had a ton of targets last week, if I am correct. It was I
think he had 8, and Judy and Tillman had
12. Plus. So he had 12 targets, 8 receptions, 85 yards. So I'm in on Elijah Moore, Tillman, and Njoku. Not as interested in Jerry Jeudy, but I guess you could include him in the player pool. But the main thing here is the Brown side. Just an offense that's willing to push it with Jameis. On the Charger side, a little more difficult, but Dobbins, the donkey McConkey, and then maybe a little bit of Will Disley as a pivot off of Gesicki.
Yeah, don't mess around. We got it up here, guys. You know how it is. To turn that bus around, we'll come back up. Just because we hit the 400, it got to get to 500 quick, or we pull it back down. That's always what it is. There's a one-stop shop. And then we move it from there. Ham, I'll go to you. Chargers, Browns. What do you got?
Yeah, similar to Hoop. I do like J.K. Dobbins this week. Middle linebacker for the I can't pronounce his name, but for the Browns, he's out, hurt his neck. And we know the Chargers want to play smash mouth football. Dobbins getting over 75% of the snaps. He's going to get 20-plus carries. This is a little bit different game. I talked about it earlier where Jameis was having to chuck. I think they were 6-point dogs last week. Plus the Ravens were missing their top 2 corners. I would only play one Browns receiver today. I think Moore's a great pivot off Tillman. What kind of ownership percentage are we showing? I don't see it. 5 versus 22 at the same price. And Hoop said 12 targets last week. And he's going to come in at a quarter of the ownership in tournaments. I think that's a great pivot there. But it would only be one Browns receiver because this Chargers team, man, it's just so annoying watching them milk 8 minutes off the clock and they get 47 yards, then kick a field goal. It just drains the game. So it's Dobbins for me and one Browns receiver. Talk to me about Chubb. You didn't mention Chubb. Hoop, I don't think you did anyway. I might have missed that one too. I'm out on Chubb, especially with Ford coming back, but I'm hearing a lot of people in the industry talk Chubb. He's only $5,800, and that's probably the reason.
Yeah, people are liking it for sure. What do you think, Hoop?
No, I'm not playing him. Out on Chubb. No Chubb. I don't want the Chubb. I want the full throttle situation.
You want the donkey.
I want the full donkey.
You don't want the Chubb. He wants the full donkey. Okay. Got it. Back on the other side, they talked about Herbert. No one's playing J.K. Dobbins this week. Chubb getting no real ownership. People have mentioned him, but obviously with Ford back and all that stuff, I just don't see it as much. I guess the game is marked as a sneaky game. Like, this is a spot people could get some of these guys. I don't think Tillman's going to come in as high as we have him. We'll obviously have our final update when we get there, but it's $1,000 more than Bryce Young, $900 more than Minshew just to get to Winston, who will chuck. All three of these guys, plus Njoku, will get targets. If you want to run it back with a Johnston, McConkey, I think that's fine. Or play Dobbins, up to you. But I definitely think there's something here. I just don't know if it's going to get all the way there. So I guess for me, I kind of like what Ham had said there. Maybe just Jameis and pick one, and then you don't even have to run it back if you don't want to. There's just a ton of other plays on the slate that you can go to. Hoop, anything else you want to add with this game? Chargers, Browns. If not, we can move on to the next one, is the Commanders and Giants.
Nothing else to really add, but I do, man, the one thing that definitely stands out, I think, was a really good point from Ham, is like the pivot from Tillman to Elijah Moore. I mean, you're looking at like a fraction of the ownership, 5% to like, we're showing 5 to 23. So 18% difference between those two, and 12 targets for Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is a really good play this week. So that's one thing that stands out. The Commanders and Giants game. Why am I not seeing it on my end here? The situation with the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, obviously high upside. I mean, bounces back last week, 25 fantasy points after the injury, looked totally fine. The problem is always going to be like, who do you pair him with if you're playing at quarterback, or do you need to pair him with anybody? Maybe a little Terry McLaurin. I mean, McLaurin's ownership's got to be really low. We're showing 4. Noah Brown obviously had the big catch at the end of the game. I guess maybe a little bit skewed in terms of the results for Jaden Daniels. That deep touchdown at the end, I mean, that's for like probably 7 fantasy points there. So he would have been like in the upper teens. But either way, I mean, you know what you're getting with him. They're projected to, I mean, the total in this one relatively low, 44. And then Zach Ertz, you can play with Ertz if you want. Sounds like Brian Robinson Jr. is going to play. Just so many good running back plays today. I don't really like him all that much. On the Giant side, like, I have Daniel Jones in. It does not feel good. He's cheap. Like, can he do something for us? I'm interested with Neighbors obviously being in there, Wan'Dale Robinson. But the standout play for me for sure is this Tyrone Tracy. He looks really damn good. And he's kind of taken over this backfield, 5,500 on DK and then 62 on FanDuel. 2 very good price tags coming in right around 10% on both sites. I really like Tracy today. A little bit cheaper than some of those other running backs, and the 62 on FanDuel definitely stands out to me. So probably more on the Giants side for fantasy purposes. Jones to Neighbors to Wan'Dale Robinson. Title's not here to make fun of me talking about Theo Johnson, but I'll have it. If I am playing Daniel Jones, which I am, like, if you are playing Daniel Jones, I think it's fine to include this Theo Johnson guy. 4 targets last week. I mean, not great, but super cheap tight end option. So definitely more in on the Giants side. And I'm not 100% what I'm doing if I am going to play Jaden Daniels or not. As of now, I don't have any, and it's somewhat scary.
Ham is picking the winner, so not the winner, but you talked about Title not being here again. I'm assuming he's out teaching seniors about modern slang like cheeks. That's exactly what Title is up to today. You're correct.
That's
so
a good one.
I think, like Landa said, I agree. The challenge is trying to find it and get it right. And then how many lineups do you want to put towards figuring out where they're coming from? Like on the Jaden Daniels side, it's almost like you'd play him naked and then play Tracy and Neighbors or something. Like, that's just an example of how I could look at it, because I'm not trying to figure out if it's going to be McLaurin, Brown, Ertz, some of these other dudes with the running backs. And then I do want to bring this up because it goes both ways, and I thought it's a really good point. So we have the report cards on the site. And obviously, this is a great pace spot. We do have the totals. Landa just brought it up that we could see that from both sides, all of that. But the other thing is we have very bad rush defenses. And so we've seen plenty of times where we have good, bad pace, but bad pass Ds. And what ends up happening is because these offenses get there early on the back and forth through the air, that picks the pace up really quickly. You could see in this game where it shuts down a little bit from a pace perspective because both teams opt just to run it. Why would the Giants and Daboll not try and keep Jaden Daniels off the field? Tracy looks good. Roll him, run him, see what happens. Does it mean it's going to work? No, But that's my point is, again, that can slow the pace down pretty quickly if you have something like that working. So that's where the Tracy stuff comes in. I also do worry, Ham, I'll go to you, but Giants D do just kind of fit in and fill out. They're fine. I'm good with them on this slate. But so many times been playing DFS for years, it's just the opposite defense. Just play the Commanders on the other side. They've been great themselves. Even though their run D might not be good, they can step up. It's Daniel Jones. It's a possibility that they just end up being the one that crushes for 3,400. So give me your takes on this game. I want to just add a couple of those key pieces in.
Yeah, this is where this is the rematch of where Daniel Jones got his S back in dimes, right? He was the Millie Maker winner in week 2. Hey, listen, Tyrone Tracy was the Monday night game, and if he didn't get that concussion, I mean, he would rival Chase Brown for ownership, in my opinion. He's right there, same price or near the same price on both sites. We saw what he did against that Steelers defense. They're much more vaunted than this Commanders defense. I think Tyrone Tracy is a great play. You know, same thing. If you want to go back to that week 2 matchup, Malik Neighbors was incredible. I think he had 10 plus catches and a touchdown. And then Hoop said it, or you might have been you, about Jaden Daniels. Very similar to Josh Allen, in my opinion, in the sense that you can just run him naked, right? I mean, Jaden Daniels can get 60 plus rushing yards and a touchdown or 2 himself. So I like Jaden Daniels, especially when no one's going to be on him. He seems to be, I guess, relatively healthy from that rib. So don't mind Jaden Daniels naked. I don't think Zach Ertz will get 11 targets again. So I'm out on Zach Ertz, but it would be McLaurin would be my main one. I'm not messing with Noah Brown on the Commander side, but give me some Tracy, out on Daniel Dimes, but don't hate the Neighbors call.
Yeah, I like this call, Billy. Like I said, I think that's just a good one, even with nothing else. Like I know people are high on always putting the running back with the defense and that sort of stuff. You just don't need to, and you could just play the opposite side in this game. I think that's fine. Another thing too, just to show it off with Shiptimizer NFL, we have this setting built in. So if you're in our optimizer under team stacks, you can just turn off naked quarterback, and then you're able to go down and say, okay, I would want Lamar. I'd be fine with naked. Josh Allen, I'd be fine with playing him naked. It just means without anybody else in there with him from the side. You're just going to let them go. And then Jaden Daniels, and then you can go up and actually force some no stack percentages and stuff like that as well, where you're getting some of those lineups built in. So just another cool feature with the optimizer. You can get it with that $85 a month package that comes with everything for NFL, Showdown, all the main slate stuff, and the optimizer, and then all the other sports as well. If you don't need the other sports, it's just $64. And if you use NBA 15, it takes it down another 15%. So just lots you can do. I don't have much more with this game. I do like the one call, just extra more than the other calls, but the Tyrone Tracy Jr., how he would have been a lot more popular if the concussion didn't happen late. And if we didn't have Brown and all that stuff, you can definitely go to him here and just play him as well. You don't need to put him with the Giants D, but that would be another way to play the Giants D and just have a pairing with him. So Hoop, anything else on that game? If not, take us into the Patriots Titans.
Pass, I guess. I don't know, like 38 total. Hunter Henry, maybe. Calvin Ridley. I'll have some of him. Tony Pollard, I'm probably going to pass on. I don't know. I just don't like this one. So it's like Henry a little bit. It's Calvin Ridley, I think is fine. And I don't really like Tony Pollard. So Henry and Ridley for me.
Ham, you got any love for this game? Any other spots you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about Ridley for a second. I mean, he was $5,600 on FanDuel. He blew up, but this is a different game than last week. Lions bad pass secondary. They were like 10-point dogs. They had to throw it. I think Calvin Ridley, I'm going to lump him in there with those Raiders. One of the worst plays on today's slate. It's going to be a slow down, grind it out type of game. I complete X out both of these sides. Pollard hadn't practiced all week. No thank you for anybody in this game.
Yeah, the Pollard one is interesting because obviously, he didn't get any practices in, but it's going to be, it sounds like now good to go, and we'll be able to see him, no Spears, at home, playing with the D. It's not for the faint of heart, but that would be something. I also think the skinny stacks are somewhat interesting. Like if you went Rudolph, Ridley, I know you don't like Ridley, I'm just saying, but like Rudolph, Ridley is super cheap. You could play Ramondre, who has sneakily just been scoring touchdowns like crazy on the other side and do something like that, or you could just play the defenses, but it's not just that they're low totals. I always talk about this. There's tons of points to be found when there's almost 21 points here. Like tons of fantasy points you could find within it, It's just getting it right between Rudolph, Pollard, Ridley, whatever Boyd, Westbrook Akine, all these guys. And then on the other side, it's not much different with Maybach and Stevenson, Douglas, Bourne, Boot, these guys. Like it's just really tough to pick it out and find it. And we have such a big slate that it just makes it tougher to, feel comfortable going there. So to each their own, but let's move on. Let's go to another one, Ham. I'll stay with you on this one. It is the Bears at the Cardinals. Caleb Williams fits the bill of what you were talking about earlier, and Hoop was talking about it as well. But with the Bo Nix situation, like Caleb Williams got the best matchups, started to show some love. Everyone was interested, and then he got a bad matchup, did not show up. Well, now he comes back with what looks like a pretty good matchup on paper. So what's your thoughts on the Browns side and then also the Cardinals as well?
Yeah, this is an interesting game. And, I know Hoop will remember this is the old Dennis Green game where the Bears are who we thought they were from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's the rematch back in the desert. But, hey, I like this game. I like both quarterbacks. Like you said, I don't think Caleb Williams is good long-term, but this Cardinals defense, not very good. All the prices either stayed the same or dropped for the Bears receivers. DJ Moore's in a great spot. Keenan Allen's in a great spot. Rome Odunze's in a great spot. In small fields, I don't hate, overstacking this game and pairing Caleb with 3 pass catchers. And then we know who the bringbacks are going to be. James Conner. I really like James Conner today. Trey McBride. I like him. Like I said a minute ago, Zach Ertz with 11 targets last week against this Bears defense. We know that middle of the field is going to be wide open. So McBride, who balled out last week in Miami, I think we run that back. He'll be unowned with all the cheap tight end savings that we have. So I think this game going to be sneaky. We don't have it as sneaky, but I like it. I like Caleb Williams. I don't like Caleb Williams long term, but I think today with the prices, with his receivers, I really like this game, especially in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting from that perspective too. And I know Swift looks good here, but you can play Williams with Swift, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Odunze, Kmet. And then on the other side, you have Connor, Harrison, McBride. So this one's, it's kind of like the Raiders-Bengals earlier, where it reminds me of you definitely need both sides got to show up. There's no secret to this game. I'm saying, but like this is the game where you kind of have that same worry of if one shows up, does the other, because otherwise it kind of screws up what you're looking to do. Hoop, what's your thoughts on the Bears-Cardinals?
The first thing that definitely stands out, it's more appealing for me on FanDuel than on DraftKings, just kind of because of the price tags. Like Caleb Williams at 72 on FanDuel, that's super cheap. And then, Kyler Murray at 77 on FanDuel. So more interested in the overall stacks on FanDuel. I probably don't get too much of it on DK. Like I don't think I'm playing Williams or Murray on DK, but on FanDuel, probably have both. I'll have Murray for sure over there because I'm going to have a lot more McBride, but I'm very interested in both running backs, specifically DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift is a phenomenal play in close competitive games. He's getting 20 touches, and he's 64 on is that right? 64? I thought he was 62. Maybe I'm wrong. We have it is 64. All right, so yeah, 64 for him.
He was
I think
62
that's fine.
last week. Yes,
okay,
last
that's why. Yeah, yep. So he went up because of another solid week. He's been good. And then James Conner at 66. I mean, with any sort of lead competitive game, James Conner gets so much work. He gets all the carries, all the goal line, and passing stuff. So I think he's a phenomenal play. And then the pass catcher is probably more FanDuel plays than DraftKings, but McBride for sure on both sides. So I like the running backs on both sides. I like, the quarterbacks more on FanDuel, the pass catchers more on FanDuel as well. So that's where I'm at in this one.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned if that happens. It sucks, but one thing you nailed there was the FanDuel point. And just I know it's not always FanDuel that we talk about, but some appreciate it. I play over there as well, like the 222 and stuff like that. I definitely have stacks of both sides of this game over there because Kyler, you mentioned it, it's like 9K or 9,100 to go up to these other guys, and he's there at 77.
Yeah.
Marv Harrison with $10,000 more salary to play with is $100 more than his DraftKings price. Trey McBride only $1,000 more. On the other side, very
similar ownership too. It's not like because they're cheaper, they're coming in with more ownership. It's similar ownership.
And the same with DJ Moore is almost the same price on there with 10 grand more salary to spend. So you're just getting upgrades everywhere else. And I think, again, you need the perfect storm, but I think some people out there would be fine and just as interested in this spot as they would with the Bengals Raiders. I prefer this on FanDuel, and I like the Bengals Raiders more on DraftKings with some of those prices and using guys like Gesicki and whatnot to my advantage there. All right, I don't have anything else to add on that one, Hoop, so I'll stay with you. Jags at the Eagles. Thoughts on this game?
So start with the Eagles side at home. Another team that's, they're kind of similar to the Ravens and the Bills, where they're projected to score around like 27 actual points at home. Good spot, good matchup. Ownership is not following. I think this team, the Eagles, a little bit easier to stack. Like, where you want to go. It's Hurts to A.J. Brown. You can throw Devonta Smith in there. He continues to get like no ownership whatsoever. And then Barkley, a little bit similar to like Derrick Henry in the fact that it's a spend up. A lot of people are not spending up at this position. So I do want some Barkley. So I'm going to be in on this Eagles offense. Again, it's not going to take much to get overweight on it. Coming in low owned in a really good spot. If you want run backs, for me, it's probably just Evan Ingram again at the tight end position. A lot of people looking to save money. He's a little bit of a spend, but the workload has been very solid for him. So the run back would be Ingram. I did just want to pull up Ingram, only 5 targets last couple games, but they're using him in the red zone, found the touchdown. So he would be my favorite run back if you're looking for one. But Hurts to A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith, I think is fine. Then Barkley, low-owned play. So again, like I said, similar to the Ravens and the Bills, are projected to score a lot of points, and there's really no ownership to follow. So I think you want some, like if you're fading Hurts, I would take an overweight stance on a guy like Barkley, I guess is, one way to put it. So a lot of different ways to go, but it's low owned, and I am interested in it, but not a ton on the Jag side.
Yeah, I'll go to you in a sec, Ham. But one thing we didn't talk about was the Cardinals defense in that last game. We'll buy some time. We need 50 more likes to get the last 2 games on the stone. Like I said, we can't just shut it down when we hit the 400. Almost 1,000 people watching, so it shouldn't take much. Takes 2 seconds of your time. It's free. Best way you can support the show. You just hit the free like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Ham, anything on that Arizona D if you're not on the Caleb Williams or the Swift side or anything like that? They're another one there that they're showing a little bit of ownership. I'm just not sure if both them and the Giants will get all that ownership. And maybe they will because they're both cheap Ds and people like them this week.
Yeah, I mean, the Arizona D is going to be super popular on DK. I think it's 2,700. Bears missing 2 starting offensive linemen, so I think that's kind of why they're getting some love. And we know that Caleb can turn it over and take sacks as well. So that's on the Arizona. And then finally, me and my guy Billy are finally agreeing on something today. Billy, hey, it's a Parker Washington type day. Hoop, not on Parker Washington, but no Christian Kirk. What's his face?
Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis is out.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas is banged up. Parker Washington came in, I think, played 70+% of the snaps last week, saw 4 targets. I really like Parker Washington. $3,600 today. I really like that. And then on the flip side, hey, I mentioned it. If you're a member at SHIPIT Nation in the FanDuel write-up, Saquon Barkley, man, this guy's just had a phenomenal season, and there's just so much meat on the bone, and that's part of it too, right? I mean, Jalen Hurts is just taking away so many touchdowns from this guy. I think it's time for a Saquon $150 and 3 touchdown type of day, just because, in the last 2 games alone, the Giants game and then last week against Cincy, I mean, literally 4 touchdowns from the 1-yard line go to Jalen. And I understand that's part of his game, but at some point, Barkley's just going to break those long runs and get into the end zone. I really like Saquon today, and then we have A.J. Brown highlighted as well. I mean, that guy's a shoe-in for like 580 at like a floor. Don't hate A.J. Brown against this putrid Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, some might say if you were cleaning up your act, you would wash up, maybe washing it up. You want to get off the Jalen Coker, clean up your act, and Parker Washington, same price, $3,600. You can use him in a secondary stack with Saquon Barkley because I like that call. I think it's all doom and gloom because Hurts finally did his thing last week where he took all 3 of them. You don't need 3 from Barkley this week. You could get 125 on the ground, few catches and be solid. You get a couple touchdowns out of him, whatever it might be. Certainly think you're fine to go back to him. And then somebody brought it up. I'm not playing on this narrative any longer. I'm so thankful we don't have to listen to that shit this Sunday. But Ingram is in a great spot here. This is definitely a spot you can go to him here at 5,300. Just play him as a one-off. You can play him in secondary stack with these Philly guys, whatever you want to do. And then I do like stacking the Hurts Brown stuff. Like I really like Brown in my Hurts stacks more than just playing as a one-off 8,100. I kind of just want to make that whole thing happen. So Hurts, Brown, Parker Washington, or Ingram, something like that. I actually would have a little bit of interest in that. I think you can kind of do whatever you want at that point because I just don't think any of those guys are popular.
What about Hurts and Barkley together? Would you do that?
Almost clicked the ban end user and delete. Luckily, it's go collect, so we'll give him a warning shot. No politics talk. Politics.
No, that's not political. I mean, it's just it is election week, and playing Washington. There's no stance.
No politics, baby. Not here.
That's not political. It's a fact.
Look what you did.
Now the bots. Now you got all the bots.
That's you get more views, man. You got to talk about what the people want.
It's the algorithm. Nobody wants that shit. I promise you that. There's enough on X. Let's keep it.
Me and Ham might.
Yeah, you guys can have your chat after the show. I'm here for football. Let's go. What did we get to? Let's see. The people will be 13 short, so we got to pull it.
Hey, is this politics, or can we say that? Can we say I'm voting Ham? Yeah, Ham.
Solid write-in candidate for sure.
That one's okay. Yeah, like you said, stay with football. All right, let's go to the next game. Second last game, I think, of the main slate, right? We've got I'll stay with you, Hoop. It's your Lions. And a lot of people said this might be where title is at. So, Ham, you might want to go look for your comments. But people said he's at the Packers game back home watching your Lions get dusted by those guys. What's your thoughts on that one?
Oh, this is a tough one for fantasy purposes. On the Packers side, it's been tough all season. Like, if you want to play the Jordan Love stuff, like, where do you go? So many different ways, and I just it's not going to be for me today. Like, I guess for me overall, this game is going to be, obviously I'm watching it as a Lions fan. It's a good entertainment value. I hope the Lions win, but I just don't know how you get into this game fantasy wise. Like, I don't want anything on the Packers side. I'm fine with it. 12-game slate, can't play everything. Bad weather here. It's literally the only game on the slate with like bad weather. It looks like it's going to rain the entire time and there's winds. I'm not saying they can't score points. We've seen it many times throughout the years where it's bad weather, it's raining, it's windy, and they score like 60 real life points. But man, it's just another reason to not be on this one. The Lions, 2 running backs, Gibbs, Montgomery. If I was going to choose one, it would be Gibbs, but you're paying 7.6 on DK for Gibbs. Like, that's tough. I mean, can he get there? Yeah, but man, you're sacrificing like Derrick Henry shares. You're sacrificing potentially Saquon Barkley shares. Amon-Ra St. Brown, like, no ownership whatsoever is somewhat appealing. If I do get to anything in this game, it's probably Amon-Ra at very low ownership. Laporta potentially at like no ownership, but I'm going to sit back, watch this game, enjoy it, root for the Lions. But I would be glad to take like a 13-10 Lions victory in this one because I won't have much fantasy wise.
Yeah, don't do your double running backs to get new ones. We had that on the review show this past week. There's too many guys, too big of a slate, but that could be it, right, Ham? Like, you could just see the Lions. Hoop says this all the time. And I know it's tougher, like they're in Green Bay, all this stuff, but it's not just the weather, it's what they want to do. Hoop literally talks about this every week. It's Campbell wants just to run that ball, Montgomery Gibbs, and putting one of those guys in with a 20 and another big total for the team, 25.5. Looking at it here. Any thoughts on that and just playing a Lions piece or anything within this game? And then the Packers side, I think Jaden Reed is still pretty interesting regardless of weather. Like, he's just, the way they use him, it's not going to be a weather issue.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, obviously the weather would take both quarterbacks for me out of it. It's tough to take Montgomery over Gibbs just because Gibbs is so electric. But I like Monty in bad weather, in around near the goal line. I don't hate that. And then, once again, wrote him up in my slate plan over on FanDuel. 7,300 for Reed. I mean, end rounds, short passes he can take. We saw what Calvin Ridley did to this Lions team. And that's how you beat the Lions, right? You got Josh Jacobs that's beat up. I understand a lot of this data was with Hutchinson, but you beat the Lions passing the ball. Let's get Reed in space. Let's get him the rock. And I really like a little Monty, David Montgomery, Jaden Reed kind of combo stack.
Man, the chat is just absolutely loving Montgomery. So, Hoop, I'll kick it to you. I mean, this is your squad here, but like, that is certainly another thing to talk about. Just, I know you hit on it, but just a little bit more because no ownership at all. This guy can definitely just walk 2 touchdowns in plus more. And he's kind of in that range. He's just a little bit more than Chase Brown and some of the other dudes that we talked about earlier. So are we going full Monty, as our guy Steven just threw out there? I like that one. Full Monty in this spot.
If playing, there's a chance I play nothing in this game, to be honest with you. There's a chance I fully fade this game. But if playing anything, the Montgomery stuff makes sense because, if they can get out of here with Montgomery 130 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a win, like they're clearly going to take that. For me, it would just probably be Montgomery. I do like that call. And then I guess, are you guys playing St. Brown at all or just fading it, going to the other spends?
I'm not super interested in him, no.
I'm out. Yeah, he gets there on efficiency and targets, and they're just not going to need it. They're not going to give him 12 plus targets, in my opinion.
So I think it's just probably Montgomery then. Maybe I don't even know though, man. It's this again. I'm going to sit back, watch this game, and hope it's like 13-10.
All right, Ham, do you got the winner of the contest? I think the second one is good. Yeah.
There were so many. I like the one, and I couldn't find it that said that we must have a deep bench if I'm here, so I appreciate that. But Mario Banks, I like this. Mario Banks, we know Title's a hooper. Hey, the Bucks can't win, man. So Title went back home to get an open trout. We know Title can hoop. I bailed on him because I saw how good he was. So Mario Banks, hit us up at info@ShipItNation with your YouTube account, and Hoop and Tambo will get you a free month. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate all the comments. I don't know if Hoop or Tambo had one that they like, but that was one that I found.
I got one I got to bring up, and Title Tambo can determine whether or not it's worthy of like $100 ticket or a membership. But we've been talking about this a lot, and a lot of times it was related to the showdown shows. We've been searching for someone that was a key part of the shows all last season. And it's our guy DD, and I do want to report that DD hit me up on Twitter, and he still watches all the shows. He says he's just got a new position, so he's not able to interact with the chat and stuff. So him and I went back and forth on Twitter a little bit, and said he still loves the community. He still watches all the shows. He said, maybe not necessarily during the live streams, but DD is still a member of the Ship Nation community. He wanted me to say hi to everyone, and he misses the interaction, but he has a new position, so he's not able to kind of update us during the shows.
Well, the good news
is in the world.
I'm going to say we will dole out a membership to Broderick here and get him set up, Broderick Dole, and take care of you. info@shipitnation.com. But the reason I'm giving it, Hoop, is not just because shout out to our guy Double D, but because you refrained from letting the chat know what you and Double D talked about on Twitter, which would be the bot hopping back in. And that's what your back and forth was about. So we'll give Broderick Dole a membership as we roll onto the last and final game of this slate. By the way, real quick, the chat wanted to talk about it. I had to verify it, though. I can't just give a narrative with nothing. Tucker Kraft's birthday today. So you could see some Kraft action there at 4,600 maybe. But let's move on. Let's go to Rams at the Seahawks. Ham, I'm going to go to you first here. Geno Smith, you texted me the minute I even tried to put his name up anywhere or said anything. You said, what the hell? You planning on ever winning money this season? I said, yeah, why? This week? You said, not with that guy, you're not. So I already know you're well against Geno Smith here, but talk to us about this game.
Yeah, I knew I liked Tucker Kraft. That's a great guy, Tucker Kraft. Maybe Tucker Kraft season. But anyway, man, this game, it's just we saw Geno without DK Metcalf last week and just the struggles that he had. He's cheap. I get it. JSN, it would probably be my favorite play in this game if you're going there from a receiver standpoint. I mean, I was all over Kenneth Walker last week, and a lot of people were, and he just fell flat on his face. Why not go back to Kenneth Walker? 7,300. Don't hate that price point. You can run on this Rams team. This Rams team is very good at rushing the passer as well. That's another reason I don't like this Seahawks team. I get it that they're cheap. I get it that this college OC tries to throw it every down. But let's establish Kenneth Walker, get him going. He's my favorite Seahawk on this game. And then Kyren Williams. I mean, the guy scored a touchdown in 9 straight games. He's super expensive. He's right there, priced near Alvin Kamara. You really can't get both of them in on DK or FanDuel. I think Kyren Williams is in a great spot. Seahawks defense, we saw what James Cook did last week. So give me some Kyren. I would love it if Puka is in this game, which all signs point to that he's playing I love it. I love Kyren even more, right? So less people are going to play him there. Give me Kyren. Give me Kenneth Walker. Then someone mentioned A.J. Barner. Let's go to the Barner who's been balling. Yeah.
Your boy mentioned him.
Come on, Billy. I didn't even see that. Yeah, but Barner, 2,600. I think he's in just as good a spot as Gesicki, and you're saving $500 if you want to completely punt it. But, man, talk me into Geno, Tambo. I can't do it, but interested in your take on it.
I love this call. Shout out to our boy Rob. If you want to do I shouldn't say I love this call because it's about Bryce Young, and I know people aren't as high on that, but I'm saying when you're trying to do something different on a slate like that, where you know it's a combo pack that not many are getting to, and not the usual combo packs of like Elijah Moore and Njoku, same team price-wise. I'm talking about something like Kamara and Kyren Williams. The way to kind of do it would be going around it that way. You could do like Geno, Barner, Kyren Williams, and then fit in Kamara still and do it that way. I'm just saying there's little things like that are sort of the tricks of the trade where you can find ways to still get lineups that make sense, have correlation, have injury effects and things like that that are working in your favor. Doesn't mean it will work out, but looking for little angles like that. And the Bryce Young one would certainly be a way to do it with Kamara on the other side of that game. But the one thing I'll say before I kick it to Hoop is a little bit overnight, I got a little bit higher on the Stafford side, not necessarily higher than Geno, but just to say in bringing that into play, if people like Geno and we're, making this work, it's no different than the other scenarios we talked about on the slate today where you need both sides to show up. And Stafford, Kyren Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Parkinson, like they got all their dudes pretty much in play here. If they're starting to do something, that could lead. So it could be like Stafford, Puka, Kenneth Walker III. Like there's ways to get to this game, and both sides with like a 25-point team total. Go ahead, Ham. I know you want to chime in. Go ahead.
Well, you saw me chomping at the bit, but
you just ready to go. Yep.
You want to talk about never Mahomes? How about never Stafford? When has that guy ever been on the winner? Like,
yeah, I tried it. It don't work.
It doesn't work.
It don't work.
Stafford's never. He has like two of the best receivers and a good run. Like he's not going to be on the winner. So I'm going to send you a text after this. Say don't play Stafford.
All right. Here's the question for Ham. Better chance of being on the winner today, and you have to answer. Right? You have to pick one. Matthew Stafford or Gardner Minshew?
I'm going Stafford. Yes.
Stafford. All right.
I would have interest. I don't have any interest anymore. But Colby Parkinson without Nacua, I was going to be on because he's relatively cheap, and we've seen what he can do without Kupp and Nacua. But it looks like Nacua is going to play. But if for some reason he's set, I wouldn't hate Parkinson. But man, what's your take on? I know you have a bias against Matthew Stafford, Hoop, but what's your take on him today?
Nah, definitely not playing him. Like he just never gets there. The tough part is like the Kyren Williams portion. Like they're just feeding his ass when they get in there, and like anywhere close to the goal line, he's getting the first two chances at it. Maybe that changes a little bit with Puka and Kupp playing, but man, it's tough for him. So I don't have much interest. The reason for the Geno stuff, which I'm with you, I don't love it, but I'm going to play it, is anytime I'm playing like 4 pass catchers on a team, like I might as well just go ahead and play the quarterback. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's just kind of my logic. Like I know I'm on Lockett. I know I'm on JSN. I'm going to play Jake Bobo, and I'm playing Barner, and it's cheap. Like I'm just going to play the quarterback a little bit too. Like I'm not going to be massively overweight on Geno, but I do have them for those reasons. Like I'm playing all the pass catchers. They're cheap. I can still get like CeeDee Lamb teams in there. I can get Jamar Chase teams in there with Geno stacks, like some of the more expensive guys on the slate. So in on the Geno stuff for that reason. The Barner call, 2,600. Like you play even $500 cheaper than Gesicki. You're able to find potential upgrades in those lineups. So I do like Barner. And then Kupp and Kyren Williams on the other side. I'm good with both.
These are the Stafford stats too, eh? Like 10 games with all 3 of those weapons, 23 plus, 60% of the time. He's 6 out of 10. So it's just a little note, but did just get the news that Puka is going to be good to go. So take that Q tag away. He's going to be in. It will be all 3 of those weapons and more. It is the opposite side of that. If you can see a back and forth, which we've seen in these games in the past, I got the stone up still. You're looking at the grades looking pretty good. You're looking at the pass percentage, pretty good. Pace, middle of the road. Weapons on both sides besides DK, which shortens everything and no Fant on the other side. So I think that's somewhat interesting. And then going back, I don't know if this is true or not. I didn't see any update on this yet, but someone said that Brian Robinson's not looking good. If he misses, are we going to see Eckler late chalk roll in? I'll try and find it quick, but Ham, you got any thoughts on that? Just if anything goes on there that you want to be in on that game?
Yeah. No Eckler at this point in his career. I mean, they just got McNichols. I mean, they just incorporate McNichols so much in there, and it's not like Eckler was getting 80% of the touches. So yeah, I wouldn't have any interest there.
Big boost to Jaden Daniels. I mean,
yeah. I would say bigger boost to Daniels. Yeah, good call, Hoop. But I mean, why would we know McVay loves Kyron Williams for whatever reason. He could fumble they have a D plus rush D. Seattle does, and good corners. I mean, they're going to pound Kyron. I just don't see Stafford getting there today. Hopefully you'll go do some deep diving this week. I know you got nothing else to do, Tambo. So find out how many milli makers Stafford has been on in that same time frame that you always quote Mahomes on. I bet it's not many.
More on that in the future, right, Ham? Go to tambostidbits.com. Signed up for, we got a teaser a couple weeks out here, 2 to 3 weeks out, but getting it out there early. But I did just look up this Brian Robinson stuff.
He can barely move out there.
Legit sources, and man, he's struggling on, the wall. It's a hamstring too. I mean, it definitely looks like there's going to be some late news coming. So keep an eye on that. We'll have you guys covered in the Discord. Make sure it's good to go. We'll get more news as it rolls out. Anything else you want to add with it? I mean, you just looked it up as well, but Eckler 5,300 on this slate.
Yeah, I would definitely have interest in Eckler at 53, and it would be a boost to Jaden Daniels. I mean, we've seen Brian Robinson has gotten a lot of the goal line stuff. I mean, there's been many times this season with Jaden Daniels teams where you're hoping his ass rushes it in and they just give it to Brian Robinson, and he's been pretty good at the goal line. So I definitely think it's a boost to Jaden Daniels and Eckler. I would bump both if we get the news that Brian Robinson is out. And yeah, I mean, I looked up the stuff too. He's like walking gingerly, not even like running. So wouldn't be surprised if he's out today. Yes, he did. Yep. He was the quarterback I had. So always a soft spot in my heart. So it might be a little bias baked in there for sure.
Can afford to get a little bit more on Gino. You can, I cannot. I don't know why I'm playing. Yeah, that would be something for sure. Also, somebody else brought up something good I wanted to see there real quick. I guess I forget. Oh, this one, Daniel, because we're not going to go to that last game, but I think if I'm playing Jefferson, it's in the game stacks. Like there is some really good pricing on FanDuel for that last game of the day. I think it'll be more of a factor. We saw only a couple weeks so far, Ham. I guess you do the FanDuel side. We seen Lamb come through and break up another giant squid 200K win last week. He popped in and got it done. Like it happens. But this week, the way they've got Aaron Jones only 7,500, Pittman 58, Hawkinson 56, Jefferson in the same range as the Chases and the Lambs. I would play Jefferson. I just want him more in those game stacks with like Flacco, Downs, whatever. Use him as a run back because I think people will be playing Hawkinson and Jones much more than Jefferson. Any extra thoughts on that?
No, I would agree. I have Lamb ahead of Jefferson and Chase. But yeah, I mean, if you're stacking Darnold, it's going to be popular. I think he's 7,500 as well. I don't hate I really like Hawkinson on FanDuel. Maybe a Darnold, Jefferson, Hawkinson, Pittman run back in that game. I don't hate at all.
Yeah, and I will say before I go to Hoop for any final thoughts this is why we wait right on our lineups on Sundays. If this news comes out, it doesn't mean Eckler is a slam dunk. You got to go play him out. Like, to each their own. We'll have it updated. Go by the projections. Go at your normal processes, whatever you do. But one thing I know for certain from doing this for a long time is that he will not get anywhere near what his ownership would have been if this news came out 2 days ago, and that's just a fact. So,
that's the key part. That's the key part to this stuff for sure. Because if we get this news on Thursday that Brian Robinson is going to be out, Eckler, people have 3 days to build Eckler teams. We're getting this news potentially an hour and a half before lock, so people have 90 minutes opposed to 3 days to make the moves. Never in the higher stakes stuff, yeah, it probably gets closer to where it would normally be. But in normal standard DFS contests, it's never going to get to the point that it would if people had multiple days to build teams. So that's to me, that's the most important part of this sort of situation. Yeah,
the H and Ham stands for hot takes. He was coming in with them all day on here, but I will say I'm not a hot takes guy at all. I just think there's other factors to it. It's everything we just talked about, everything Hoop mentioned. And then don't forget, the Giants are one of the most popular defenses on the slate, even more popular in high stakes. For those that aren't changing it and letting it run, most aren't putting Eckler against it. If Robinson's out and Eckler becomes the guy and these guys are going to put up 25 points and you don't want to mess with the passing game, you are going to see spots where you can have Eckler. And if he gets 2 touchdowns and they score and the Giants just get crushed, double leverage again that way, right? You're going on the opposite side of Tracy. You're going against that popular Giants D, especially more in high stakes. So just little things like that we're always thinking of going into a slate. Ham, any final thoughts from you before we get out of here?
Just want to ask you guys, looks like Trayvon Diggs is going to be active. Does that anything due to you on London or Mooney or no big deal? I mean, I know he hadn't been the same, but
we didn't talk about it as much earlier, but again, it's obviously something. He certainly helps them. They're still down Bland, right? But the setup is that I wasn't expecting him to be out. I knew that there was news that he could be, but I wasn't actually factoring or accounting too heavily for that. I'm not changing too much now just because he's in, so be it.
Yeah, no, nothing else to add. Appreciate you boys having me. Appreciate the chat. Some good laughs today. Always fun to talk some football with you on Sunday morning. Yeah, good luck everybody out there today. Hopefully we have some big time winners in the Discord.
Yep, I agree. Thank you for hopping on and filling in for Title. We appreciate it. Got those free winners picked out for the memberships, all that. Hoop, final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, Ham, thanks for joining us. Always a good time doing these shows with you. In terms of the news, yeah, I mean, we need to monitor that Brian Robinson situation, and we also need to monitor the Bills stuff. Well, probably a little less of an impact, but like Amari Cooper and Curtis Samuel could open up some opportunities. So we get all that stuff posted in our Discord as soon as it hits. So make sure to get on over to SHIPIT Nation, get in our Discord, and then you'll get those updates as they come through. Good luck to everyone. Week 9, let's make it big. Get those SHIPIT Nation logos to the leaderboard, top of the leaderboard. If you don't already have a SHIPIT Nation logo, get over to our website. You can download it for free and put it on DraftKings and FanDuel. So make sure to do that. But overall, appreciate the support here in the YouTube chat. Good luck in your contest today.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Like we said, Sin Day, Win Day. We love that. And let's kick it off. It's a November to remember. Excited for this one. Great slate ahead. Tons of good options we talked through. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Hit that like if you haven't on the way out. Make sure you're subscribed. Almost to 9,000 for Ham, for Hoop, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.